Okay, hello. Today we're talking about IEM Rio Challenger stage, and sort of gonna we're gonna look forward to the Legend stage, which starts in about 6 hours. So yeah, really excited for this episode. So the way that I want to do go about things today is that the last time we talked, we just covered um round one and two of IEM Rio, but ever since then, three, four, five, like three rounds have happened. Uh, Teams made it through, some teams didn't. So I'll just kind of go team by team, and we're gonna sort of like dive into them and some of the other stuff that happened at IEM Rio. So let's just kind of get started. Um, so first, let's just kind of just jump straight into some of the teams. So the first two teams that qualified through the Legends stage were Bad News Eagles that went 2-0 over Gamer Legion, and 2-1 Mouse over Fnatic. So Mouse qualified over Fnatic. Um, 2-0 Bad News Eagles 2-0 in Gamer Legion. I feel like is not um a big surprise, but honestly, I'm gonna be honest. Like Bad News Eagles is a great team. They just kind of came out of nowhere, took on the biggest names, went 3-0, and last year after their major run in Antwerp, not even last year, last major, this year, last major, after their major run in Antwerp, people were kind of questioning, the legitimacy of this team. They were like, like, do they deserve the spot? Like, do they make it to Legends? And I think this is something Juan Fletcher said in one of their interviews. If you keep doing it again, if you do it consistently, it's not a fluke. And I agree with that. So it's really interesting to see, um, them kind of uh just proving everyone wrong, really. And like no one really expected them to be there, especially because like, when they came together last year, they were just like a mixed team. They were just like these were people that played FPL, like they were very good FPL players, but FPL doesn't necessarily translate over very easily to just pro play. And so props to them, honestly. Like they made it look easy. I'm gonna pull up some of the results and let's kind of talk through that. Um, so yeah, we had Bad News Eagles that went 2-0 over Gamer Legion. Gamer Legion had a 2-0 start as well, in the challenger stage, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, for Bad News Eagles, I think that they just keep at it. They're still unsigned, which is honestly a big shock to me. Like, where I'm not sure where they could go. Like honestly, TSM. So TSM had an announcement earlier last month where they talked about how they wanted to get back into CS:GO, and yeah, if that happens, then TSM could sign them. I don't know what other orgs are actively looking for players, but honestly, one of these tier two orgs can just get rid of, excuse me, can just get rid of their rosters and just sign BNE, because at this point they've shown that they're more than a legit team. Um, so yeah, props to BNE for making it through to well the Mouse Fnatic game. This was also a two like a 2-0 game, 2-0 bracket game, and it was one of the most fun games to watch. It was it was really fun to just see how Fnatic was really resilient up until Mouse just up until when Mouse just kind of took it away from them. So it started over on Vertigo, where Mouse kind of just I think Fnatic didn't have much of a say, honestly, in when it came to Vertigo. But Inferno, they looked really good. Their CT sides were fantastic. Nikodas showed up really um, throughout the series, and but other pieces like were kind of struggling a little bit. Um, and yeah, no, Inferno, their CT side looked really good. And then they just absolutely closed it out on T side. They went 7 rounds. They finished in the half 9-6 on CT, and they've went 7 rounds on the T side. So really good to see how Fnatic were able to be resilient on like map two, but like, map three, Ancient Mouse just kind of ran away with it. Like the T side of Fnatic was pretty good. They got 6 rounds, but like Mouse's T side. was just absolutely fantastic. They were really solid, played as a team, and just looking up to looking forward to like the Legend stage. I think um, Mouse just are in a prime position to sort of even make it through Legend stage. I would say, because they have the momentum. Everyone is playing well. People are hitting their shots. Frozen superstar. I genuinely think Frozen is one of the most underrated players. Because when we talk about superstar potential, I rarely ever see Frozen's name come in there. You know, it's probably because Mouse hasn't been relevant for a while. Mouse as a team, Mouse doesn't make the biggest and like make the deepest runs, make the biggest tournaments. But Frozen is someone who is just absolutely extremely reliable and always kind of has been. Even when, even in the A core phase of Mouse, he was someone who could step up. The other shining piece for Mouse is Exertion. The guy's legit. Exertion is so good. He came up from the Mouse NXT from the Academy team. But no, he has superstar potential, and he definitely like will be one to watch for the future. So with that kind of like lineup with Frozen and Exertion being your stars, JDC I think is a super solid player. Um, Dexter has like been impressing me this entire tournament. I said this before. I said the last time. Um, Dexter has been one of the best fragging IGLs for a while now, um, and so that is fantastic. I'm still slightly worried about Torshi's form. Torshi can really still be hit or miss, but I think um, if he works on being more consistent, and if Torshi shows up more consistently, I genuinely believe that Mouse can be one of the strongest teams in this major. Um, so really excited about that, about Mouse. I had both Frozen and JDC on my fantasy team. Didn't disappoint. Frozen, I think, actually carried me through, which is just fantastic. Okay, so those were the 2-0 teams. B&E, I still like. I am quite blown away by B&E, but they're just fantastic team. I think they keep grinding. Someone needs to sign them as soon as possible, and so that they can like attend more of the partner leagues. And I can't wait to see more of them. And I don't know how it's gonna work out for them in the Legend stage because there definitely were some like weaker teams in in this Challenger stage, but they can definitely make a deeper run. I don't see them qualifying quite yet, and we'll get more into that about when we preview the challenger stage. But I think they can make some sort of a deep run. It will be a miracle if they qualify, but we'll talk about that in a second. Um, the next set of teams to qualify were oh, these were all 2-0s. That's kind of crazy. The next set of teams to qualify were Big, that went 2-0 over 9Z. Furia, who went 2-0 over Gamer Legion, and um, who else? Outsiders, who went 2-0 over Fnatic. Um, let's start there actually with Outsiders. Outsider, they played very much like I expected the Outsiders with Yekindar to play, which was I placed them quite high uh in the world rankings when they had Yekindar. But ever since they changed Fame and Norbert, they brought in Fame and Norbert, got rid of Buster and Yekindar. It they didn't have that, but Fame showed up. Fame was like an absolute superstar in this series, and he I think he dropped 30 kills on Overpass, um, or on Mirage. Sorry, not on Overpass, which was the second map of the game, if I remember correctly. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, Mirage. He dropped like over 30 kills. The first map, I don't know what happened to Fnatic. They went missing. Literally, no one could hit a shot. Second map looked good for them. They had a rough um start, but they definitely definitely made up for it. I think they were up at some point. They were up 14-12, 14-13, something like that. But Outsiders, in classic Outsiders fashion, just pulled it through, and so it was really good. Another good thing about this that series was that Nikodas was still showing up and I genuinely think that he is like a very solid, evolving into a very solid player. Everyone knew he had the talent, but now he has a piece around him to be able to make consistent plays. But yeah, honestly, Outsiders just really outplayed Fnatic here. Very, very, very much credit to Fame for winning them that Mirage game. I don't think anyone else was nearly stepping up even a little bit. Um, and yeah, so Outsiders getting that done. What do I concerns that I see for Outsiders? Um, I'm not sure. I think they need Kicker to step up a little bit more. I think James been playing decently. Flit does his roles. Kicker is the one person that has been lacking a little bit, like in terms of firepower. I know Fame absolutely carried them through this match, but if it wasn't for him, I don't think anyone else stepped up. And I think the team looks at Kicker to be one of their more, star firepower-y players. So I think that needs to happen at least a little bit, for them to be able to play and like pull themselves through the legend state. But for now, they show that they still have that resilience that they used to have with Buster and Yekindar. And yeah, that Outsiders solid, solid, solid Counter Strike on in that series. Um, Big 2-0 over 9Z. I'm gonna be honest. I did not predict Big to pull through on this one. I definitely thought 9Z would go through it because 9Z was starting to warm up a little bit, and they were going through, um, taking names and like playing some solid Counter Strike. But Big looked really good actually. Like they absolutely destroyed them on Nuke, which was 16-4. Um, and then they went, yeah, overtime, all overtime on Dust 2. And yeah, like I said, I think I've talked about this like a little bit before, but Sin is pulling his weight. I think like everyone, me included, looked at Sin as like the weak link of that team. But Sin has been pulling his weight. Tapson has been very, very good, and I've always considered Tapson to be one of the best IGLs, especially because of his like fragging prowess and because he is really, really good. But recently hasn't been showing that. But here he stepped up. He really has. And um, but the thing that like stands out for me, like very much so, is just Searson. Searson has just been crazy good on just on in this entire challenger stage. Um, and yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about Big. Searson definitely carried them through it. I think when they changed when they got Tizian out and brought Keto back in, I definitely thought that there would be a clash of roles. Um, but um, it hasn't seemed to be the case, like Big has made things work. And I definitely think that's a lot of credit to Tapson and Goppy. Like Goppy is, I'm sure he's like a big, big, big part of the success of this team. But yeah, super solid Counter Strike in that series. I don't know how much they can keep that up, especially because, again, not sure how comfortable Sin's going to be. Not sure it's going to be harder teams in the next stage. But I think generally Big. I guess the question for Big now becomes like, when Faven is healthy, do they even bring him back? Because the results with Sin instead of Faven have been much better than those without him. Um, so does Faven get a chance to get back? Like, every so often there is this miracle run, where like a stand-in's gonna come in or someone from the academy team is gonna play. I think that's what happened with Mouse as well. But yeah, someone from the academy team is gonna play, and like you just realize that they're just much better as a team player, as like your team is much better with them, um, instead of with the person they're replacing. I I'm not sure how I would compare Faven and Sin. I still think Faven has a very high skill ceiling and hasn't been able to show everything that he has. But um, yeah, I think that's a tough question that Big will have to answer. So if after this stage, well, obviously Sin is going to play out the major with them, but after this stage, does Big even bring Faven back? Do they transfer list him? Who knows? A lot of things could happen. Um, And the last team to qualify on this day was Furia 2-0. I'm just glad that the Brazilian fans got something to cheer about, honestly, because they have been going through heartbreak after heartbreak. Um, so, on the flip side of that, the first two teams eliminated were Imperial and 00 Nation, the teams with like the biggest, the Brazilian fans, stars, people that were, you kind of made the Brazilian scene like fall in. And we'll talk about Imperial in a second, but um, yeah, I was just, with Furia, I was happy to see that they were able to um, take care of business. Honestly, they should not be losing to a team like Gamer Legion, especially not at home, especially not with the crowd behind them. So they look solid, nothing flashy, nothing crazy. Yuri and Queserado both look really really good. Dropped look really good in some of those games too. Like he's not meant to be the fragger of the team, but Drop was doing his roles really well, holding outside extremely well. Um, Safe, I think he has evolved into a much more like team player slash um, someone who works in the Furia system. So he's not the most flashy upper, but he will get his like couple kills every so often whenever they enter site, things like that. So I think Safe is evolving into that. I still think he needs to be a little more consistent for Furia to be able to make a deep run, but yeah, I think the Furia team has warmed up and they now look solid after that heartbreaking loss to Big. Okay, so those were our 31 teams in on the last day. Unfortunate for 9Z, they got beat 2-0 by Fnatic um to go 2-3. We'll talk about the big teams that didn't qualify in a second, but Fnatic finally got the job done. Got a 2-0 over 9Z, which was actually pretty well contested. Like 9Z showed some grit. They had a 16-11, 16-14, yeah. So 9Z definitely showed some grit, and it was a little hard. Again, like one of those things where the Brazilian fans had a heartbreak because it was kind of a home team for them. Um, but Fnatic got the job done. Nicodemus again. I think the biggest, generally, the player that has stood out for me from this roster is Nicodemus. And as always, like I think Crims is super underrated as well. Crims has been one of the most consistent players for the longest time, and he keeps that performance up. So really really happy to see that he finally got some of the attention that he deserved. Um, yeah, nothing else kind of comes to mind when I talk about Fnatic. I am looking at them as like one of the teams that could make a deep run as well. It's like a dark horse team for the next stage. But yeah, wait, actually, another thing I do want to talk about as I looked at the scoreboard just now. Fasher was really good in this series, but the thing that's more surprising to me is Roy, right? Roy is meant to be the star of this team. Roy is meant to be set up and just, the someone that gets you that multi-kill, which did not happen in this series. And I think that that's generally been a trend across the challenger stage. Roy, even though he was good he had a lot of impact, but definitely had more to give. Is kind of the thought that I had about Roy. So definitely hope to see him like get a little bit more um get a little bit more aligned with what I know he can show and what I think everyone knows he can show. So yeah, really think about Roy there. The next game was Cloud9 2-0 over Gamer Legion. Cloud9 had an interesting run. They lost 1917 to who was it? Oh yeah, they lost to Greyhound. Oh my goodness. And then they lost their first BO1 as well, which I forgot who it was against. Um, let's see. Let's bring that up. Matches. Oh yeah, the first thing was 1917 against Fnatic, and then though there was some controversy with tech issues with when there was a 17-17 round of the Greyhound game where Shiro crashed or something like that. But honestly, it just should not have gotten to that place. Like Cloud9 is a team where that should be easily beating Greyhound. Like I think I said that the last time we talked as well. But they made the reverse sweep. They went 0-2 to 3-2, won all their games 2-0. And my God, Shiro is an absolute beast. Um, I think he went double positive most games. And it just really makes me excited for the prospect of adding like another fantastic opera to the legend stage. We have Zaiwu, we have Simple, we have Brokey, we now have Shiro. Um, so yeah, it really makes me excited. Shiro was an absolute beast. He just refused to lose games. Um, I think if it wasn't for him, then um, I don't think Cloud9 would have made it. Because their other guy in Exile, um, which Axel had the most disgust. Sorry, just like slight tangent, but Axel had the most disgusting one tap. He jumped out of B apps on Mirage and had like a jumping one tap to two people that were boosting on Cat. It was ridiculous. I personally think that deserves a graffiti. Like things like that just don't happen. Um, in this game, it was actually it was crazy. But yeah, talking about Exile, he um underwhelming to say the least. And Exile needs to definitely wake up for this next stage to happen, for this next stage to for Cloud9 to be able to make it to this next stage. But I think generally there's just something wrong with this Cloud9 team. Um, like when Axel's fragging, when Axel's good, everything looks well and good, right? Like every piece of the team is working. But when he isn't, there's just no one. Like Shiro had to go God mode to be able to um just beat everyone. So I don't know. It's just confusing, right? I don't know what kind of change you make. I don't know. Like everything falls apart, including Navani. And I think Navani is definitely one of the lowest rated players on that team. But who do you look at to replace, right? Like I generally think ends up being a firepower issue. If they ever go down on like the T side, for example, they just stop thinking. They just do like a default A execute or something, and they just all go and die. So like where does that change come from? Um, do you kick? So I guess we can establish at this point that you're not kicking Shiro. Inter's, I think, again, one of the players that is so extremely underrated. Inter's, it's such a good supportive element. That like I would put him up there with Crims, not a level of consistency, but Crims generally one of the best supporting players, and Inter's kind of matches him on that level and his pedigree on that. But you're not kicking Shiro, you're not kicking Inters. Um, do you kick Axile, who is a top five rifler? Do you kick Nafany, who's generally I tend to think that like Nafany is like the one guy on this team who actually shows some emotion, who has, who hypes them up, who talks, who is the brain behind this and like the hype man in this squad. So I don't know. He's like he feels like an integral piece, but his stats and like his results just don't add up. Like and I feel like that's just hard. Or do you kick Hobbit? Like, Hobbit is the veteran, the most experienced player on this team by far. Has some stats issues in the last couple of weeks, months. But yeah, I'm just not sure what you do there. So Cloud9 definitely there's some kinks to be worked out. But if they can get a system change or something where Exile can start fracking again, um, that, that team works. That's why I had them as my 3-0 pick. So yeah, things are just tough times ahead for Cloud9. I hope for their sake that they don't go 0-3. I really don't think they will. They don't go 0-3 in the legend stage, but um Yeah, not sure. A lot of tinkering to do for C9. Okay, and the last team that qualified was Vitality 2-1 over OG. This was definitely kind of a heartbreaking game because OG, legendary org, hadn't been at the major for about 2 years. They finally made it, and had to face Vitality in their 2-2 matchup. And they did hold their own, like this match went the distance. Um, they beat Vitality Inferno 16-6, and the vertical game was super close. But then OG, on Dust 2, OG just kind of crumbled, and I generally think that was because of just because of Zywoo being a beast. Um, let's see. Yeah, Dust 2 stats. Yeah, Zywoo was an absolute beast on this map. 27 and 12. Zywoo was just, I think generally Zywoo just carried Vitality through this. Someone, I'm worried. I'm worried for Vitality, man. Someone needs to step up around Zywoo. In recent times, it had been Magisk. But like I think Dupree had some like very instrumental moments to keep them alive when they once they were like on their comeback from 1 and 2. Um, someone needs to do something. I don't know who it's gonna be. Excuse me. Yeah, but someone needs to step up around Zywoo because he's been an absolute beast. It's kind of very similar to the Shiro situation, except that like I think generally Vitality has a little more firepower, a little more explosiveness to them. But Shiro single-handedly was pulling through for Cloud9, and then Zywoo was doing the same for Vitality. But glad they both made it through. For so Vitality definitely needs like some um tinkering. Something needs to work because right now it's just not. Um, let's see what else. So now let's talk about some of the teams that didn't make it. So let's just go kind of in reverse order here. OG 1 and 2. I think they have a really strong core in Nexa, Dexter, and Flames. And this is not to say that Neofrag and Fiku did not hold their own. I generally think that there are better players out there that would be an upgrade for OG, that can bring this team to a very constant top 10. Um, and like Neofrag had some really big rounds, right? It's like impact rounds, like 3K getting into B side on Vertigo, 3K on A side Vertigo. Um, he definitely had some good rounds, but I just I can't help but think that like those two are like obvious spots for upgrades because Dexter, absolutely amazing hopper, like prime, just in my mind he's up there with Shiro Broki. I think he's the fifth best opera in the world after Shiro Broki, Zaiwu, and Simple. Um, so Dexter, fantastic. He had this one crazy round on A side Dust 2, where he, had like three scout headshots, had like 4 seconds, and ran down through CT spawn into middle, and just it could not. It would have been just absolute wild scenes if he hit that headshot, but just could not hit. He tagged. I forget who it was, but Dexter absolutely insane. Flames I think really solid support element, and I think that's the case with Nexa as well. Nexa has been he Nexa I also generally think is one of the best fracking IGLs. Um, yeah, OG have a really strong core, and I think with some extra pieces in this offseason, they can really become a consistent top 10 team. And I definitely see it being a good offseason for them. So OG on the up, on the rise there. Um, then the next team that didn't make it was Gamer Legion. Heartbreaking. The Cinderella story came to an end. Um, you know, uh, they amazing form at the major at the RMR. Went to 2-0 at BO1's 2-0 at the um at the challenger stage to begin with. And but I think that that's where some of the merits of the Swiss system, like the BO3 Swiss system, start to show. Where they just weren't able to like finish it off. They lost to Cloud9, which Cloud9 looked really convincing, but there were some there were some crazy close moments. They went 16-13 both maps. So not comfortable games by any means, but I guess that is comfortable when it comes to Cloud9 because they're just kind of that's how their games just go. It's I don't know, it's weird. And then the other time they lost to Furia, that was also like pretty comfortable for Furia. So really, I generally think really good pieces. Acor, I talked about Acor's revenge arc last episode, and I generally think he's just becoming like a superstar level opera on this team. Um, so really, really good. I think Shuhei, um, really solid IGL, um, and I think someone called him Ima, IM. Um, really solid support pieces. In Isaac, Ima, and wow, I'm forgetting the last person on GL. Oh, Kiosk, of course. Oh, Kiosk had this nasty like round against Cloud9 where he literally was at the edge of monster on the T side edge of monster. On B side overpass, and he killed four without taking a single point of damage, and then just comes back onto site and aces. That that was such a ridiculous clip. Kind of just shows how fundamentally, sorry, how mechanically sound Kiosk is. So great pieces there. I think just with some a little more work, definitely a consistent top 20 team up here. But they just kind of ran out of steam with. But also it's a super young team. So more just a little more uh experience and they'll be good. Um, okay. Next, 9Z. My heart goes out to them. Like 9Z, they played really well. I generally think they were a good team, just couldn't pull it through. And I didn't see them winning against Fnatic. I did see them winning against Big, especially like a weekend Big. But they just weren't able to pull it through, which is unfortunate. But I think I'm not sure what they do. Do they? I'm not sure if they change a player, because at least when it comes to like the Americas region, they're definitely like a top five team in the Americas region. I would say who's better than them, right? Furia, Liquid, Complexity, maybe, EG, maybe. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that they land squarely into a top five team. So. Not sure if there are changes that need to be made there, but just my heart goes out to 9Z. Um, next few teams that got eliminated were EG, who went 1-3. Um, I think EG just fell flat as they very often have with fragging and stuff like that against Cloud9. Um, and I don't see EG as being like a very um structure heavy team like Cloud9 is, and so they rely a lot more on their fraggers, which just didn't happen, which is unfortunate. But this was like of like one of the first big outings for the CG team with new players like Hext, um, who I'm sure who was facing like a lot of nerves. Um, I don't know. EG again, I'm not sure what they do here, right? Like, do they make changes? I definitely think there's let's see here. I definitely think there are options available. What's interesting is that like I definitely used to think of Cirque as the biggest weak link on this roster. I don't think that is the case anymore. Cirque is definitely hitting shots, but they do need some sort of superstar level opera. But who do they get rid of, right? Um, right now, EG is just it's this is like a disorganized mess. I think you keep automatic, right? Because I think Automatic is the one player on this team that has shown consistently that he can be good, even after coming back from Valorant. Automatic is the one person on this team that has shown he can be good. Um, Breezy, I don't know. Breezy's supposed to be the superstar of this team, but has not definitely not shown that caliber. had some good moments, had some consistent matches for a little bit, but Breezy is not shown the superstar level. Cirque, um, for the caliber that he has, he's still a little lacking in terms of what he provides to the team. But I think he's like turning out to be a more consistent, more solid upper, which I don't see as a bad thing for EG. So you keep Cirque, you keep Tim, and you just get rid of the other three. What? Not sure what you do there. I'm really not sure where Nealon just kind of came from in the middle. Just oh wow, I'm tired. Um, but Nealon just kind of happened to join this team, which I don't know if he fits there. Like I know he can, yeah, I know he communicate well. He speaks English pretty fluently. I saw an interview with him, and so he was pretty speaking English pretty fluently. But yeah, just not sure. Maybe you just keep a couple of your pieces, and I definitely see some sort of rebuild coming up for AEG because yeah, I don't see this particular team going on to. I would even argue like I don't see this team being a top 15, top 20 consistent team. So if EG wants to get better, they definitely need other players. But who do you get in NA? Maybe someone from their academy team. There's definitely like some good pieces there in EG. What was their name? Carpe Diem? EG.CD, or now is it EG Black, EG Blue, one of the 12 teams that they have. Yeah. Um yeah, really not sure. EG's just a mess. I'm not sure what you do there. But they definitely need some sort of firepower upgrade. They need fraggers, they need people who can play better within the system. I think you keep Cirque and Tim. And maybe Hexed, just give him some more time to flourish into himself. Breezy, I personally think Breezy needs to go. And while I don't think Nealon's a bad player, I just don't see him fitting on this roster. Um, so at least get rid of two players at the minimum, and just get two new players. So we'll see what EG ends up doing in this offseason. Um, Next team to go out was Greyhound. I said at the beginning when I was doing pick'ems that I just wanted Greyhound to win one game, and they did. Um, Unfortunately, they just got like they faced Vitality. They had a really tough run actually. Let's see, Greyhound. Their matches were just awful. They started with OG, played Cloud9, played Big, and then Vitality. That's not an easy run. Definitely teams with easier runs. But I think the one sort of thing that like the Asian teams at this wow, at this challenger stage have proven is that there should be an 8-team RMR for Asia. Like Asia has a 4-team RMR, and that is just it makes no sense. Um, which oh my goodness, I can't believe there's like I can name more than four teams on the top of my head which are in Asia which would deserve to be at the major, and like if there aren't enough spots for Asian teams, there's the talent in the region is never going to develop. Like there's no incentive for them to be playing, right? Like IETC, Wings Up, Tyloo, Rare Atom, Greyhound. Like here's the Asia region. Here's 5 teams in the Asia region that are really good. So personally, do not understand the rationale behind this at all. And sort of like just bouncing off of that, the next team to be able to eliminate it was IETC. I think IETC has some good players. Um, I thought there were like Techno 4K had some really solid rounds, which is really interesting. Cabal has just been around forever. Really a really good player for the Asian scene. So I think like that consistency, those veteran players who have been around the scene, and like they did push OG the distance. Like Ancient. I'm just not remembering this. Ancient went 16-14, and yeah. So generally, they definitely have pieces that they can work with. Unfortunately, I'm not sure who else from the Asian scene they can get out here. But you know, um, just I think the general thread for Asians, yes, this RMR um, was that to get 8 teams in the RMR. This RMR was just not fair. So I think we won the best Asian talent. Get 8 teams in the RMR, please. Okay. And the last set of teams that were eliminated were unfortunately Imperial. They got 2-0. They ended up 0-3. Um, really a heartbreaking moment. Like the fans were disappointed, but obviously they had support for their team. I tweeted this out. I don't think at this moment my heart can take Fallen retiring. He did say in an interview that he wanted to play for another year, but he had other things too that he wanted to prioritize. He's getting older now, wants to spend time with family, and like totally valid. Um, oh, Shaken Not Stirred. Thanks, thank you for the follow. Um, but yeah, what was I gonna say? Imperial. They, I don't know what happens here, right? Like Cello was really solid. So you keep Cello. Not sure if Fallen is gonna come back, and I like my heart doesn't want to believe that that was Fallen's last game, but it might have been. For I like according to like interviews and stuff that he did a little earlier, not sure if Fur would come back either. So do you just kind of keep um the core, the trio of Bolts, Cello, and Vinny? That's actually I mean I definitely think that's a solid core. Who else do you put in there to get them? You can maybe put a try as your opper and one of um one of the youngsters from Zero Zero Nation, one of Duma or Lado. I think just kind of a combination of the two teams. And so let's just talk about like the Brazilian scene in general, right? Like they have two big teams right now. I don't necessarily see Furia making changes. Um, Unless they just absolutely crash and burn in the legend stage. They I think they have enough in their pieces to be able to continue going um forward with this team. Um, so that leaves us with MIBR, which I'm not sure. I think MIBR is just like in a world of their own. Henny is now in MIBR. I'm not even sure who is on that team anymore. But I think the two like major teams with two most pieces are Zero Zero Nation and Imperial, and I think you get if you can get Try is really solid upper. So let's say for a second that Fallen and for aren't coming back. So if you get Try and Dumao, then you can make things work on Imperial. I think that could be a very solid secondary like Brazilian team after Furia. And yeah, maybe that works, but definitely some like very big changes to come for Imperial. If Fallen stays, let's say hypothetically that Fur doesn't in that scenario, then you just pick out one of the other pieces in Zero Zero Nation again. I think Duma or Lado is gonna give you a boost in they're both gonna give you a boost in your firepower, and so that would be a good change for them. Okay. I do really hope Fallon comes back. It was just awesome to see the camaraderie that he had with the crowd there. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, there was this one clip of him kind of in the middle of the crowd banging the drums and just dancing with everyone, just kind of trying to soak in the moment. Really wholesome. Really hope he, after all he's done for Brazil, I really hope he stays. Yeah, so we just talked about this the next team to get eliminated was Zero Zero Nation. Who else? Okay, I think those were all the teams actually. Zero Zero Nation, Imperial, um, IHC, Greyhound, EG, 9Z, Gamer Legion, OG. So yeah, overall, I think like out of my pick'ems, definitely some hard um matchups there, but um definitely some like very like big upsets in this part of the tournament. So I'm gonna move on to like talk generally about some of the other things that happened in the tournament. So one big thread was tech issues. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a round 17-17, Greyhound versus Cloud9. Cheryl crashed, and Cloud9 lost the round as a result. Um, then there was this one round, Fnatic versus Outsiders Overpass. It wasn't that late in the round. Um, it was 3-1, 2-1 or something. And it was a 3v3 retake, and Fnatic on the T side. All three of them crashed. And Outsiders just won the round based off of that. So that and another one where I think one member of OG crashed, and in that they lost an anti-eco against Furia, which Nexa later in an interview said that they got in their head, um, which that would do that to you, like if you're important game, important round, and losing an anti-eco just kind of like sets you up pretty badly for the rest of the half. So it's just it's frustrating to have to deal with those issues. Personally, think that the ESL admins handle it pretty well. There has always been a rule book for how these things should be handled. If there's damage that's been done, then you just then you don't restart the round. But there's more complications than quite frankly than I understand. Um, but now that like because that happens, it was a little frustrating. I think generally the sentiment around ESL tech stuff was like obviously there should not be crashes at a big event like that and a very important rounds like that. So um, it happened, and I think like we all just collectively move on from it. It's tough to say that you know here's here's this one round that they should not have like it happened. I think we just collectively move on and let the admins. I personally don't think the admins handled it terribly. And speaking of admins, the other like kind of interesting thing that happened was around crowd cheating issues. Um, this always happens at big events though. Like when the crowd can see the X-ray, and if someone's flanking or something, the crowd just starts shouting. And ESL admins they decided to let me pull up the HLTV article for it actually. Um, let's see, where is it? Oh, let's see. Cheating, anti-cheating, crowd cheating. Hmm. Oh, this one. There we go. Cloud influence. So yeah, ESL introduced a few like during the game versus Imperial versus Cloud9. It was really tense, and the crowd was obviously really passionately supporting. Um, so it's like just supporting Imperial against Cloud9. So ESL decided to get rid of X-ray and Minimap in the arena. But my argument for it was, oh, all right, I should plug my laptop in. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. But yeah, as I was saying, this happens in literally every tournament. This happened with Blast. Um, when like people literally gave Astralis information on what bomb site people were going to. And I can think of like every LAN tournament that's where that happens. People were bringing up clips of Olaf Meister from the League Atlanta Major where he, pointed at a wall on Cache B site, and kind of just like moved his mouse around. And the crowd shouted, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know someone's there." So, I don't know. It's very interesting that like it had to happen at the major. It was a little excessive, in their minds, I guess, but I genuinely don't think that's how that should have been handled. Um, every other tournament has it, just let the crowd. I think it takes away from the crowd's experience, personally, especially if it's like a team like Imperial where they might not see Fallen play again in an 0-2 game. So it's just personally not very for it, but I'm sure they had some reasons to do it. Um, and I mean, I hope it doesn't happen in like now Furia games. And like, um, there definitely were some other problems with some people threatening players and stuff who were thrown out by ESL. Good job. Very much for that. But as for just, them making noise when players are just on screen, um, I don't know. Personally not very much for it. But I'm sure they had their rationale there. So those were some of like the big topics that that kind of came up um, during the challenger stage. I'm trying to think if there's something else we have to discuss. Oh, I as a matter of habit, I opened fantasy, but that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to matches for tomorrow, and let's just kind of quickly do our picks. And so now we're moving on to the challenger stage. Um, and yeah, let's see. One thing one thing I was thinking about, you know, when I looked at all these matches was that there was literally no clear favorite anywhere out here. Like these all these matches are so close, and obviously there's like the seeding system sucks. Like we have Vitality versus Navi. It's like a top five match in the first round of the major. It's weird how that works, but we definitely need a better seeding system, and I think that people have had complaints about it for years now. So not gonna go over that all over again, but so let's see. I'm gonna quickly like sort of go through these because we're coming up on an hour, and um, I am really tired. I just need to go to bed today. Um, so it's getting late out here. Um, so yeah, let's just quickly go through these. Mouse versus Liquid. I mean, personally, I'm a Liquid fan ever since um, ever since Yekindar has joined. Big fan of the team. I'm a big fan of what they can do. Um, High ceiling in my mind. So Liquid should be taking that one. But Mouse, again, as I mentioned earlier, they have the momentum, they have the pieces. So who knows? It's a best of one. Literally anything can happen. Spirit Bad News Eagles. Oh, sorry about that. Also very evenly matched, right? Like I no clear favorite in my mind here. Um, but I think Spirit should take this. This like effectively this is another FPL game kind of match, where Spirit big fraggers, um, explosive T sides, good CD setups. BNE is very much the same. So I would predict Spirit to take that one. Face Cloud9. Oh, that's such a tantalizing matchup too. So that's such a good match. I The other team I'm a big fan of is FaZe. I have loved Kerrigan ever since he was on TSM. Um, and I think FaZe have looked shaky though, but still have Cloud9. So it's just gonna be interesting. I personally think FaZe have too much firepower for Cloud9 to be able to overcome, given their shaky form recently. So not sure exactly how it's gonna go, but I'm gonna have to go phase on that one. Sprout versus Big, again, just such a coin toss because Sprout, oh my goodness, Sprout looked good in the RMR, but Big, they pulled their own, with challenger stage, and like there has to be an element of Sprout's a young team coming into the arena. There's going to be nerves, while Big has already kind of like warmed up to it. Big already knows what the stage vibe is like. Um, so I think I'm gonna go Big on this one. As much as I think Sprout has more firepower, and I think they could beat Big in like a online game, in like a studio environment. I think Sprout could be Big on this one, but I'm gonna have to go Big, especially because they're warmed up. Um, I think a similar thing goes for, oh, sorry, goes for all three matches here, right? Cloud9 have now kind of warmed up to the stage, but I think FaZe is also going to have some home crowd support. So I think FaZe is going to take that one. Spirit BNE, um, Spirit's going to get used to it and need to get used to there. But they also do have really young pieces, and BNE has um, some fans out there in Brazil. I might switch my prediction on this one. We'll see. And Liquid, likewise, I think Liquid has a lot of experience. I like people like OC definitely have not that much stage experience, but I think they'll be able to keep Niles in check on that one. Okay, Vitality Navi. It's going to be stupid for me to bet against Navi on this one. Navi has enough stage experience that they're not going to be they're going to be a little cold coming in, but Vitality looks shaky, so I'm going to have to go Navi. But such a good match. Zaiwu versus Simple, cannot wait for this. Outsiders Heroic. I'm gonna I'm gonna have to go Heroic on this one. I think generally again Heroic has a little too much firepower for Outsiders to be able to handle. Um, and Heroic's not a team with lack of stage experience. They have young players like Yabi, who can just completely go missing, but I think they can also rise to the occasion very much the same. So should be exciting. Furia ends. I'm gonna have to go Furia. Um, Big home crowd advantage, and I know they look really good at the RMR, but as a team, they don't. I'm not sure. I'm sure they have like plenty of stage experience. Valda, um, Diha, Snappy, Sampayas, they will be fine on the stage experience part of it. They will warm up to it. Oh, Madden, yeah, Madden too. They have enough stage experience there, but I think Furia will. They have now warmed up like officially. They look really good. And Nip Fnatic. Oh my goodness, that's such a tantalizing matchup again. Um, I think I'm gonna have to go Nip on this one. Fnatic looked really good, but I think Nip looked. I personally was a big fan of how they played at the Ormar. Despite not having an Opper and Rez being the Opper, he looked so good. And with Alexi, I think they just had they just looked really unstoppable at the RMR. And so personally think that at least in a best of one, I think Nip would beat Fnatic here. Um, and so I think generally um, they at least they should. Their core of like Brolan, Rez, Hampus should be now that Hampus is not IGLing anymore. Oh my God, Hampus is gonna gonna slay. Hampus is on my fantasy team for this upcoming stage. So I really hope. I personally think he's gonna be really good, but I hope that stays true. So now that I think a little bit more about it, Spirit, I'm gonna have to reverse my prediction on that one. I'm gonna go BNE over Spirit, especially because of the thing of coming in cold. Um, Spirit, youngish roster. Um, I know they're explosive, and I know some of their players have a lot of state experience, but I think BNE is just warmed up, and they have a lot of momentum coming in. So I'm going overall. I'm going Liquid, BNE, FaZe, Big, Navi, Heroic, Furia, and Nip. And can't wait. I'm super excited for the major to start, which now starts in 5 hours from me. And it's 2 a.m. Really tired. So I will see you all. Let's see. Oop, did not mean for that to happen. Um, but yeah, super late for me here. Hopefully that was a little insightful and people had fun watching that. And I'll see you sometime soon with more analysis about how the legend stage is going. Take care. Have a good night. Peace.